Well, here's a slightly different problem. We've got this line y equals negative 3x. Let me just sketch a little graph of that. So it's a line that's going through the origin. It's going down like this because it's got negative slope. Now what I could do is say, well, if x equals 1, so plug that in right there, and then y is going to equal a negative 3. So at this point right here, that would be that y is a negative 3. And then create a right triangle by dropping this down. There's the right triangle. We could call this the angle theta. And now I could take that triangle and this information. So this is a length of 3. You could call it negative 3, or you could just call it a length of 3. And then we'll deal with the negative sign later on when we look at this part. And then this right here is a length of 1. So then I could stand that triangle up and work with it in this direction. So this is the 1, this is the perpendicular, and so the 1, the perpendicular, and then the 3. The 1, the perpendicular, and then the 3. And then there's this side, which we'll need to find using the Pythagorean theorem. Now the little theta is between the hypotenuse right here and the 1. So the theta is between the hypotenuse and the little 1, so this would be the theta. And then we could do the Pythagorean theorem. So that's going to be that c squared equals 1 squared plus 3 squared. Or in other words, c squared is 1 plus 9. So that's going to be a 10, and then take the square root of it. And the square root of 10 can't be simplified, so just leave it as the square root of 10. All right, now we have the 3 sides. Now I could find the trig functions. So I prefer to do this order: sine, cosine, tangent, and then set up those using SOHCAHTOA, or my favorite, Oscar had a heap of apples. So Oscar had a heap of apples. All right, so sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So this would be opposite over hypotenuse, 3 over the square root of 10. Next, cosine. That's adjacent over hypotenuse. So 1 over the square root of 10. And then tangent is opposite over adjacent. So that's 3 over 1, or just 3. Then go across from sine, that's going to be cosecant. And then you just need to invert the fraction, so it's square root of 10 over 3. Across from cosine, that will be secant. And invert that fraction, so that's square root of 10 over 1. And for the last one, cotangent, invert the 3 over 1, so that's 1 over 3. And then for the very last part, decide what the signs should be. So quadrant 4. A smart trig class tells you where they are positive. So in quadrant 4, cosine is supposed to be positive, which means secant is supposed to be positive, and the other ones are negative. And there it is. We're done with number 9.